Hi, so today I'll be talking about the 1962 film Freud, directed by John Huston and starring the one and only Montgomery Clift. I'm quite interested in Montgomery Clift, and I have been reading his biography lately. He is such an interesting individual with some interesting aspect to his life, as well as some dark history in his life that I'll probably talk about in future videos. So John Huston's Freud, which was filmed in 1962, explores the early career of Sigmund Freud when he started to explore treating patients with hysteria with the radical treatment of hypnosis. And I have to say, the movie was quite interesting and very intriguing, specifically to me, since I'm a psychiatrist.
Starring Montgomery Clift as the youthful Freud whose daring search for forbidden truths outraged the world and made his own life a nightmare of guilt and doubt.
The choice of Montgomery Clift, however, was a little bit of a mystery to me. I mean, I've always envisioned Sigmund Freud as someone who is sort of rough on the edges, and Montgomery Clift has somewhat soft facial features. He didn't strike me as a Freud. However, his performance was brilliant. The guy knows how to act. Although, from reading his biography, while filming Freud in 1962, he was going through a very rough time in terms of his health. He was known to have alcoholism, and he was suffering a lot by that year. He had memory lapses. He was also diagnosed with hypothyroidism and early cataract. And despite all these health problems, one wouldn't notice any problems in his performance when you watch the movie. Quite an interesting film and performance by Montgomery. Generally speaking, when it comes to hypnosis and how it's depicted in films and portrayed in movies, it's really funny because in the movies they make it look like it's a magical treatment where like they easily put you to sleep and then they'll command you anything and you'll just obey. So they can command you to forget all the trauma that you've been through, and wow, just like that, it's all done. And of course, in reality, that's not the case. In fact, hypnosis hasn't been used lately as it used to be. Yes, some counselors use it nowadays, but they use it as a very simple and brief relaxation session rather than an actual hypnosis and sleep and with commands. So in the movie, we follow Sigmund Freud as he is assigned to treat a patient with hysteria using, as I mentioned earlier, hypnosis. The movie is highly recommended. However, I have to say it is heavily dialogue driven, meaning there's a little bit of action, so it might put some people off. But the performances by Montgomery Clift and Susanna York, who plays the hysterical patient, and her name is Cecilia, are just electric. They are brilliant, both of them, and watching them as they portray their characters and specifically the role of the patient and the psychologist is magnificent.
Cecily, you are not in a hospital. Where are you? Cecily, you are not in a hospital. Where are you? It's a row! It's a row!
Now let's talk about hysteria. What is hysteria? Hysteria is hyper-excitability of our emotions. Basically, it's what's known as the nervous breakdown or mental breakdown. And most recently, it has been changed in the scientific community as conversion disorder. So what is conversion disorder? In conversion disorder, the patient develops altered motor or sensory functions, meaning they might develop, for example, blindness, weakness, paralysis, mutism, and sometimes even seizures. which are not explained by a neurological or medical condition. So it's purely psychological, and it's usually driven by inner conflict or stress. So in the past, back then when Freud was around, they used to treat conversion or hysteria, when it was called what it was called back then, with hypnosis. And as I mentioned in my earlier videos, it was considered the main treatment option, and they used to think that it's quite magical, but in reality it's not. How do we treat conversion now? Well, first of all, we need a very skillful psychologist or psychotherapist or a psychiatrist who could actually create a very good bond and a rapport with the patient. We also use medications like benzodiazepines, which are anxiolytic and can induce hypnosis. Once the individual is in a relaxed state, usually they sort of control their emotions to some extent, and this is where we actually initiate the psychotherapy and the treatment plan. So yeah, I would recommend watching Freud. It is a classic movie back from the 1962. It's in black and white. However, I do like these type of movies. Sometimes they give a classic feel to them. As I mentioned, the performances are brilliant.
He didn't touch me. You must believe me. You must. I'll kill myself.